Thank you, everyone, for joining us for episode 3. I think we're on.
Yep.
I'm Justin. Really glad to have you back. Thank you for the comments, the subscriptions. We definitely, we like that more and more people are starting to follow, starting to listen in.
Yeah.
Chris has actually set us up on SoundCloud. So if you don't have the chance to actually view it on YouTube, you can actually just, plug it in on your road trip, whatever, your commute to work and view us or listen to us on SoundCloud. So that's great. But as I mentioned, I'm Justin. My skinny version of Rob Kardashian sitting across from me would be Chris Ritter.
I could only hope. I'm Chris, as you mentioned. And just briefly on the SoundCloud thing, the reason we started that is for, I personally like to listen to podcasts in the car, so it's harder to use your data and watch a video at the same time. So we're uploading it simultaneously via SoundCloud, so you can keep up to date there. But on to touch on that, we're also sponsored again by uegaming.com. Basically what that is the latest news in tech, video games, anything that related. They're going to E3 this year. They'll be covering that. So if you want to know more, just go ahead and visit them at the website. We'll put it in the description below with all of our Twitter tags and everything. But other than that,
I heard that they're going to be taking comments, actually listening to the fans on what they want to view at E3, and be able to post some updates of different games, consoles, etc. So it's kind of a cool thing that they're going to do, and it's I think it's their first trip to E3, so they're excited. And I think everybody that follows the UE Game Wire that reads the stories is pretty excited for that. So glad to have that. But man, let's just get right into the podcast because we have a lot to cover. NBA playoffs are in full force. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was and we had just kind of exchanged some text earlier or throughout the weekend about LeBron James, and so we're gonna talk about him.
What? Time out.
All right.
Refer to him by his real name, please.
I will not do that.
For this whole podcast is LeBroom James, okay?
Yeah, I'm not doing that. It's catchy.
The facts back it up, okay? The facts back it up.
Yeah. They are in the Eastern Conference. Let's go ahead. I'm going to ask the first. Let's talk about LeBron and are we taking his greatness for granted?
Yes, 100%. Obviously there's a generation gap when it comes to this argument, and me being the younger, we're generally leaning towards LeBron, but let me just lay out some facts for you as to why we're taking him for granted. The whole second half of the season, all I heard was, oh, the Cavs defense can't do this. The Wizards are going to give them problem. Oh, the Celtics are going to – the Raptors, who they had the same record as. Like, that's all I heard. And then when the playoffs came, what happened? LeBroom James turned that switch, and him and the Cavs are rocking and rolling like it's last year's finals again. Let's just – since, the statement that Klay Thompson said last year after Draymond's suspension or whatever, saying it's a man's league and basically LeBron's a baby, LeBron has averaged since that game 35 points a game, 9.8 rebounds a game, 8 assists a game, 2.6 steals, 2 blocks on better than 50% field goal percentage and 46 from 3. Now, to put that into perspective, just this postseason, just forget those 2-3 games last postseason, he's 8-0 this year in the postseason, extending his record of 11 sweeps in the playoffs. That's an NBA record, just stamping that. The mic's on. It's on. He averaged 36 points per game this last series on 57% shooting against the Raptors. It's a stat I saw and heard on the local radio today. With Shaq's best season in LA, he shot 62% on field goals in the paint. And this postseason, LeBron's shooting 66% on field goals in the paint, while adding to his complete player now at the age of 32. Curry's best season from three-point range as a Golden State Warrior is 46%, and LeBron's shooting 47% this postseason.
Yeah, but Curry takes a lot more threes.
LeBron's shooting a career high of 5.7 or so. He shot like 12 yesterday.
Yeah. He's shooting really well from the three-point line, especially in the postseason.
I think to say we're taking him for granted is just – that's the statement. with LeBron, he's chasing this ghost of Michael Jordan, the thing that made basketball great, the guy, the god. And I'm not taking anything away from Jordan. I still have him as number one right now, the GOAT. But LeBron, to me, is the best all-around player I've ever seen play. And don't say I can't go back and watch YouTube series of Michael Jordan, things like that. Since he's been back in Cleveland, they've lost 4 playoff games combined, 12-2 the first year, 12-2 the second year, and 8-0 so far right now. All while his weakness, this is what I'm getting to. He's molded himself into a complete player now. He has turned it on in the playoffs and showing us his dominance. He's dominating in every essence of the form. His efficiency is off the charts. He's making threes at a higher clip than he ever has before. He's making free throws at an alarming rate. He's 85% in this last series. That's something unheard of from LeBron.
Yeah, he was 67% all regular season, which
he had a quote in the regular season actually saying, "I'll shoot 80% when it matters." And it matters. So
okay. So let me interrupt you real quick.
Yeah, no, you're good,
I agree. I mean, I agree with a lot that you said, but everything matters, because if we're going to actually quantify LeBron James down to numbers, which, a lot of LeBron James supporters do, because he does post great numbers, you have to include the regular season. And so for him to say a statement like that, I would like to see him, 67%. If it was in the mid-70s, that'd be one thing, but that was one thing that was a little disappointing. But just back to our original question, I don't think we are taking his greatness for granted. He's, we've put him up on a pedestal. He is King James. You see him, everything you read about talks about LeBron. I think it is what he's doing is great, but I will have to mention something about the regular season. And, it's quick to forget the regular season when you do have 2 sweeps, but we do have to qualify those 2 sweeps. And, the last one of Toronto, they were without Kyle Lowry. I don't think Toronto is really that great of a team. I think they would be comparable to a Portland in the West.
But it's easy to say that, but Kyle Lowry got hurt in the series, and they were already down 2-0 when he got hurt. So
right.
It's not like he was making that big of a difference. They're the best pick and roll team, and the Cleveland defended them to a T, basically.
They did. Indiana, they've got some young pieces that like a Miles Turner. They've got, Paul George is good, but he hasn't proven that he can win in the playoffs. So I don't really think that was a huge challenge. So for them to go out and sweep 2 teams, I think they should have swept those 2 teams. And just a stat. The 8 playoff or from, the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. If you look at playoff teams, the Eastern Conference playoff teams against the West in the regular season, they won 56% of the time. So they were 150 and 116
You said
losses.
That's the West against the East, or the
East? That's the East against the West. So they've won 150 games and they lost 116. So a 56% winning percentage East against the West. Okay, now you go over to the West playoff teams against the East during the regular season. They won 155 games and they lost 85 games. That gives them almost a little over 65%. I'm going to say, that stat right there shows to me that the West is better than the East. And I don't think I need to say that.
But my thing is, when people bring that argument in when it comes to LeBron being the greatest and being taken for granted, let's just get to LeBron being the greatest aspect of it. When people bring that in, let's just stay on this year real quick. Out of the 8 teams, basically all the West had was one better team with the Utah Jazz over Atlanta. 8-game better team. Other than that, the records are similar. The 8 seeds are the same. Indiana was 1 game worse than the 7 seed in the Grizzlies, who took the Spurs to 6 games. So, that gives me something just numbers-wise. And then if you're going to bring in how easy of a road LeBron has in the Eastern Conference Finals, why don't we go back and look at Magic when they were in the West, when things were reversed, when the West was the easier of the conferences, when Michael had to beat basically the second-place team in the Eastern Conference Finals to win the championship? How come that doesn't come into play for him? But when it comes to LeBron, because here's my theory, he's the closest thing to Jordan. So all these old heads are scared, and they're backpedaling. They're getting everything they can. 6 for 6 in the finals. That's why he's better. Michael this, Michael that. LeBron will never be that. When I'm watching LeBron at the age of 32, basically at his peak, and I don't know when he's going to slow down. Even Kyle Lowry said he doesn't know when he's slowing down. So he's shooting at a higher clip right now than his last years with the Heat or anything. He's most points per game he's ever averaged through 8 games of his career in the playoffs. He's shooting way better from 3, way better from the free throw line.
In the regular season, I would rather see him, instead of playing so many minutes per game, play all 82. He took some games off just to rest. I mean, he is up there in age, but take that 37 minutes per game down to 34, 33, 32. You could play all 82. I just want to see him. I don't think we're taking his greatness for granted, but I want to see him be great in the fact that he's great throughout from the regular season.
He's 32 years old, and he's
exactly
32 years old, and he's averaging the most minutes in the league.
Yeah, and I think they should have cut that down a little bit, but
he's played 82 games in his career before.
I can't. I used to hate on LeBron James. I'm not going to hate on him. He's a great. But that kind of takes us into the next question. And I'll go first, but what does he need to prove? And I think he's got a lot, he's proven everything, right? To be an all-time great. Like, he's probably up on the Mount Rushmore of basketball players. But I think to take that next step, it's going to be to pass Jordan. Okay, that's his next step. He's up there with, there's 3, I can't really compare him with a Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell because those guys are kind of clumped up together. Yeah. But, there's Kobe, there's MJ, and there's LeBron. They're right there. He has to, he's going to have to win 3 to possibly 4 finals. And just because of the ones he's lost, to go ahead and take his game to the next level and actually be considered the GOAT. That's what he has to continue to prove, continue to be better.
So you're saying it's all rings?
No, I'm not saying it's all rings. But if you look at Jordan and a lot of the statistics, I'm saying it's showing up, being the best player on offense, being the best player on defense, evolving your game, which he's done a nice job of in 3-point shooting. He's done a really good job. His next evolution is going to be when he's 33, 34, 35 years old, and he can't play on the perimeter with these young bucks that are just, outrunning him, and they're too fast. He can't, rely on his speed to get past them. He's going to have to become – he's 6'8", and he's a huge player. He's going to have to become a post player in his next step. That's what he's going to have to be.
I think he showed us a little bit of that this last series as it was. I mean, people have been saying this for years that he's going to slow down, fall off the proverbial cliff, basically. Yeah. And at 32, he's playing, honestly, since I've been watching him, some of the best basketball as a total package player that I've seen him play. He's dominating the field. He can run the point when they need to because Kyrie, although he's a point guard, he's a scoring first point guard. He's not really going to pass. You saw when they were down 26 or whatever it was in the first series, they put out LeBron and 4 shooters, and he made the right play every time, dishing it to open shooters because of his ability to drive. So I think there's not much he has to prove in order to be – he's already a Mount Rushmore athlete, in my opinion, especially in basketball. He is top 4 – he's top 2, let's be honest. It's him and then Jordan. He's better than Kobe, all-around player. Kobe can be a better scorer. That's fine. And LeBron –
he needs to get one – I would say 1, 2 – he needs to get 1 or 2 more rings to be better than Kobe.
What?
In my mind. I mean, I know you could kind of compare stats and stuff, and he's great, but
LeBron's the only player to be in the top 20 in points, assists, and steals in history.
It's I think now it's a chase for rings. He's done everything else. You're right. Yeah. He's done everything else. Now it's just a chase for rings, and that's going to put him above Kobe and MJ. That would,
if he gets that many, yes. I think right now he is 100% better than Kobe is, like, overall. Like, I think he's gotten past that point. Beating a 73-win team who is going to be considered the best, that definitely elevated him over Kobe. That put him back in the conversation of becoming better than Jordan. If it wasn't for that, wow, who knows what we'd be talking about right now. I think if he wins this year, if he wins this year and you say he's not better than Kobe,
I
It's
would
got
probably,
some weird.
I might put him above Kobe if he wins this year. Especially the competition he's going to face in Golden State.
Because I think
That's
they
what,
built this team for Golden State.
right?
This team right now is built for they're not worried about the East. They're
Yeah.
worried about Golden State.
Well, and that's part of the evolution is, this run and gun offense, this type of offense that Golden State runs. That's what I'm liking. And that's kind of how Cleveland faced them last year, a little bigger, slow it down, half court offense. But I think LeBron being the focal point of that slow down half court, get in the post, grind it out, abuse these teams in the post, and actually make them not shoot as many threes. I think that's going to be – I would like to see that. He could actually change the game of basketball by doing that and slowing it down when it's changed differently.
And I agree with you. And he's shown that to me already in the last two finals. I mean, the first one without Kyrie and Kevin Love, I mean, he had the most points, most rebounds, most assists, and did it again the next year. So he can take it down to the post. He played with the Matthew Dellavedova as his number 2 scoring option. So I think he can slow it down. He can take it to the post. He draws those double teams and makes the right pass out of it every time. He affects the games in so many ways, being 6'8" and 260, that it's not even funny. There's nothing you can do right now in my eyes that's going to stop him. He's going to get that switch on the Curry. Nobody on Golden State's going to be able to check him. They have people who can guard him, but he played probably his toughest 2 defenders he's going to face the rest of this. Draymond – okay, maybe he might be the toughest, but Draymond's more of a complete team defender, in my opinion. That's just another topic. I think.
Well, how's LeBron as a defender?
As a defender, when he wants to get stops, he will get a stop.
But I don't want to hear it when he wants to get stops. I want to see.
As in, when he's in the finals and he wants to win a ring, he will make the stops, a.k.a. the block, where he ran down the whole court in 2 seconds.
Yeah, but when Jordan, he does play great. He plays the passing lanes great, and he goes up for those
Jordan was
highlight.
The same way, though. Because think about it, Scottie Pippen was their lockdown defender. So when they wanted to stop, they would put Jordan on him. That
was a little more towards the end of Jordan's career, kind of about like LeBron's. But
then what? Exactly, they're the same.
The same. He just hasn't proven that consistently throughout his earlier years. I mean, he plays the passing lanes great. He defends pretty well. I think going in and out, I would still play.
He can play 1 through 5.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot to do with his size.
But you can't hate the man for being that big.
I know. All right, we got to move on. Yeah. So what's it going to take for him to be better than Jordan?
Like I said, if he wins this ring, I think if he's not even, if he wins this one, beating a team that won 73 and then picked up a KD, an MVP candidate to go along with your already MVP candidate, Defensive Player of the Year, and Klay Thompson, one of the best shooters probably ever when it's all said and done. I think if he does this, if this doesn't catapult him to tied, I'll be very, very shocked because he's beating a team that got better than they were last year. All while going through the whole year with people ragging on his team, saying their defense can't do this, can't do that. I think this year, ultimately, if they go out and they beat Golden State, it's going to prove a lot, at least in my eyes. But also, I'm a LeBroom James fan, so –
I'm going to say 2. He needs to win 2 more championships to be in the complete conversation. Okay, if he wins 3, I think that's that'd give him the same amount, and then he's done all of these other things. I think you would probably consider him the GOAT. But then you do have the old heads that say, well, it's a different time in basketball. I don't agree with all that 100%. I've watched a lot of older vintage games, and besides some of the highlight plays that you see from the Pistons and stuff, I think, to be quite honest, I see some more physicality out on the perimeter today.
Oh, yeah. Back then. I mean, especially in the playoffs. That's what hurts Curry. I think that's ultimately what's going to get the Cavs their best chance. They're going to abuse Curry again. That's the weak link of the Warriors, at least on defense.
Yep.
And real quick before we get into the next one, what was I going to say, man? You know what? I'm just leave the Cavs behind. You got something?
No, I'm just saying if you think of it, you can bring it up later on.
No, yeah, you're good. We'll just move it on, And this one's interesting, The series is tied 2-2. We're going to move on into the playoff series. And this is the Wizards-Celtics, battle of 2 great point guards. One's better at defense, though, than the other one, obviously. So, and that brings into the discussion John Wall of the Washington Wizards. Where do you think, personally, he ranks on maybe your top 5, top 3 of NBA point guards today?
I think that John Wall is the most underrated player in the NBA. Now, he's been getting a lot of publicity since it's been the playoffs, but if you look in the regular season, you really didn't hear a lot about him. I mean, you heard about Westbrook, Harden, Lillard. There was a lot of point guards. You just didn't hear a bunch about John Wall. But, I mean, if you look at his numbers, he played 36 minutes a game, averaged 23 points, 32% from three. I'd like him to continue to increase that and get a little closer to 35-ish. But 32% considered he didn't really have a jump shot coming into the league.
Mm-hmm.
2 steals per game, so he was tied for first. I mean, I love that. And 10.7 assists to 4 turnovers, which is an amazing turnover ratio, assist to turnover ratio, when you consider how much he controls the ball. So I think I would honestly, and I would put him, as far as a true point guard, I'd put him behind Westbrook, and that's because Westbrook was everything this year to his team in Oklahoma City. But I would put him up there. Harden is in D'Antoni's offense. I gotta give him a little asterisk.
I don't consider him a point guard.
I know it's really tough too. He's made a lot of the right plays, but I mean, you look who D'Antoni has coached, and that position just thrives and it does just super well. And so I would say, knowing what I know, and Scott Brooks, he manages the game or manages the rotation really well. But as far as, setting up offensive plays and defense, he doesn't do the best job of. And I think John Wall, I mean, obviously when he's in the game, they kill it. When he leaves the game, that's when the Celtics have been able to come back. So I'm going to say that he is the second best point guard in the league looking now back to the beginning of the season.
So give me your top 5 right now. And it was hard. I made a top 5 prior to the show. I don't know if you did, but it honestly took me a couple minutes. I
mean, I would say I put Russ at top. I'd put Wall at 2. I would put Harden at 3. I think, and it's just he's kind of on a team that just can't get past that initial first round. But Damian Lillard, he's got so much upside. I love watching him play. I think I really like watching him.
And is this in order? 1 through? So that's 1 through 4. What's the 5th? Who's the 5?
Man, I'm gonna have to think about 5. There's I'm not gonna. Chris Paul is kind of towards the end of his career. I can't have him at 5.
I don't know.
And he to be honest, I think Chris Paul dominates the ball a little too much for that. He throws lobs, but I think he over dribbles more now than he did earlier in his career when he was with the New Orleans Hornets at that time. So that would be my top 4. I would really have to think about who that 5th player would be.
Now, my top 5 is definitely a little bit different than yours. I think we both have John Wall at number 2. But to start mine off, I got mine with number 1 at Chris Paul. If I'm starting a team today, look, Chris Paul is dude. Chris Paul, come on. The fact that you didn't have him in the top 5 is real
Dude, look at their team. If he was a top 5 point guard, they would be winning championships.
What you mean?
If he was
one of them two gets hurt every day. When Blake Griffin goes out, he tried his best to beat the Jazz. The Jazz are a great team. Without Blake Griffin, they had no shot to beat the Jazz. I think all around, as a true point guard, I would want Chris Paul, but that's not taking anything away from John Wall. I think John Wall is my number 2, right there behind him. John Wall's still young. He's got plenty of time to go. Chris Paul definitely deserves number 1. I think after John Wall, I put Russell, and that's solely because of Russell's efficiency. I think Russell takes too many shots. John Wall is a little more, protective with the rock, like you mentioned, only 4 turnovers. So I'm just going off of the true point guard style, basically. And Russell's 3. I don't have James Harden in my list. I got Kyrie at 4. And then I got Mike Conley at 5. But you can probably switch him and Kyrie. Mike Conley showed me a lot this postseason against the Spurs. Honestly, they have a really good team. It's not going to do anything in today's NBA. Maybe back in the day it could, but Mike Conley showed me that he was well deserving of being the highest paid player as of right now in the league.
That Memphis Grizzlies team, to be honest, I would have liked to seen him in the East, because I just think the Spurs had a perfect game plan against them. But I think they're a good team, to be honest.
So if you put just real quick, if you put James Harden in your top 5 point guards, does that mean you're going to put Giannis in there anytime soon? That's a serious question, because today's NBA is becoming a positionless NBA.
Yeah. No, I mean he can handle the ball, but the Greek Freak, he's gonna be, he's got to add a jump shot.
Yeah, I mean,
it's tough, man. It is because it's kind of like a bring the ball up by committee. But if you look back at the old Bulls, they had Ron Harper as their point guard. But if you look, Scottie Pippen brought the ball up so many times in every basketball game. It was crazy how many times he brought up the ball.
It's just like when the Cavs are in a hurt spot, LeBron's going to run the point for him.
Right.
You want the ball in your better playmakers' hands. I mean, no offense to Ron Harper or anything, but I'd rather have Scottie with the ball.
Yeah. So that's good.
Probably makes some better choices. But.
So who wins the series?
Honestly, and I said this at the beginning, I got Celtics in 6. I think they're too much to handle at home. Both of these teams are way too hot and cold when it comes to being away from home. The Wizards can't do anything when they're away from home, and neither can the Celtics. The Celtics feed off of that crowd. And if the game's anywhere close in these next 2 games and Isaiah Thomas is there in front of that home crowd, it is a 95% chance that the Wizards are going home with a loss that night.
I got the Wiz in 7. John Wall's going to play 48 minutes to see if he has to. The Wizards are going to win in 7.
My only thing is he looked tired after, what was it, game 2, was it? After he played all those minutes when they took the big lead, they jumped out ahead, and then when it came down to it, he was the only one making anything, and he was tired. So I got the Celtics in 6. They're the deeper team. They got Celtics 6.
Spurs Rockets. Let's go.
Spurs Rocket. Who do I have winning?
No. Well, I would say who's the MVP of the series so far first.
The MVP of the series? I'm not even going to lie to you. I haven't even watched many games of this just because they've been blowouts for every game for one team either way. So I know that Kawhi's kind of been putting the straps on James Harden, so it's going to be hard to say that. But, James Harden putting the straps on him leaves people open, blah, blah, blah. So
yeah. Well, Kawhi only played Kawhi's only had one bad game, and that was last night. He only played 28 minutes, 29 minutes. So, but the other 3 games he was phenomenal. Tony Parker going down really hurt him, but I think that Spurs team doesn't look right without Tony Parker. Even though he did miss some time during the regular season, they're just not moving the ball like they have before. I'm a little worried about that. But I still think Kawhi so far is the MVP of the series. Eric Gordon, Anderson, they're not going to shoot as well as they did last night for the rest of the series. So I'm not worried. I still have the Spurs winning in 7.
I think, I would go Spurs 7 just solely on the fact that they got Pop. Yeah, Pop's a much more proven coach than Tony. And then Kawhi is, on the brink of superstar.
Yeah, I think so. But you have Patrick Beverly, who has been playing lights out this postseason as far as defending and hitting those open threes. That's going to be real tough for them. I'm really concerned in Simmons for San Antonio has really stepped up and has played solid. He's kind of taken some pressure off of Kawhi's shoulders, but I think it's, in the end, I think it's going to be Pop, Kawhi, Ginobili's going to catch fire finally.
The only thing
get it done.
We say that about Ginobili, but he's 50 these days. He's 50 in basketball terms. I think personally, who would give the Warriors as of right now the harder series, I think it might be the Rockets. That's just my opinion, especially without Tony Parker, without that veteran leadership out there. I mean, you got Kawhi, but they're loaded. So you want to have a team that can keep up with them scoring and running up and down the court. And the Rockets have that, especially with Lou Williams coming off the bench. So
I would like to see Beverly again, or try to.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good series. And then you got
a reason on the wing. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of similar play styles. Hey, D'Antoni, if Amari Stoudemire had not gotten suspended for trying to come onto the floor back when the Phoenix Suns, I think this is 2007-ish, when they were playing the Spurs, the Suns were going to win that series. I mean, they had it all. And so, when D'Antoni has those proper pieces, he's a great coach, and he's even proven that in the playoffs. He just, like I said, Stoudemire got suspended, and he wasn't able to beat Pop that year. But we'll see. I still got the Spurs in 7, and I would say the better chance is probably Houston. You're probably right there.
Yeah, that'd be my best. My best bet.
Yeah. So we're going. Let's just take some takes on.
Quick takes and touch on the news.
we've got to talk about big baller brand ZO2s. They made the news. We deferred them towards the end because they're dominating too much of the news than they should be. But $495, what do you think?
Definitely not worth it from a consumer standpoint. But if I had the money and my sneaker knowledge, if I had just the disposable cash, I would 100% buy these. Just solely on the fact to keep them clean and wait for Lonzo Ball to hopefully develop into some superstar and then resell them. Because as of right now, to try to sell these shoes at $495, I respect what you're trying to do as a dad, trying to make everything independent so you don't have to answer to anybody but yourselves, and you just pocket all the money. But he's an unproven commodity. It's like trying to come in and sell like the newest Lambo at like $3 million, but nobody's ever seen your Lambo.
Yeah,
you just made it at your house. I think they resemble the Kobe's, so why not just go get some Kobe's for a fourth of the price?
Yeah. I mean, I agree on some of those points. It's a new era that we have today. And so, with social media, and he's been able to infiltrate all of, ESPN. I mean, he's on there like every time I turn on ESPN, LeVar Ball. And the only reason is because he's so outspoken. Him coming out and making these shoes for $495, I would say was really good. And kind of like you said, you could go ahead and buy, cop a pair of these and wait. And if he develops good, they'll be worth a lot more. I think they should have made them, okay, here's these shoes, big baller brand. We're going to make 500 of them, or we're going to make 1,000 or 2,000, 3,000, whatever. Had a limited edition. I think they would have sold a lot faster, because right now I think there's been speculation on it, but I think there's only around 500 that have been sold. And that's kind of coming from LeVar Ball's mouth. I think he was on one of the networks and he said 495 have been sold. So it's probably under that. So I don't know. It could go either way. I think even if Lonzo got in the NBA, tore his ACL, left, and never did anything, and there was like 500 of these shoes out in circulation,
people would still buy them. Yeah.
I think they might be worth even more down the road. It's like, remember those ZO2s that came out and they only were able to produce
the ridiculous 3Bs on them.
Yeah,
the worst logo in sports.
They would probably be worth a whole lot of money.
That looks like a Madden logo when you change teams, when you relocate teams and you protect your franchise. Like, that's the worst logo I have ever seen.
Yeah, it's not that. It's not the worst.
Dude, you can't put that on a shoe. You can't put that on a shoe.
They could use them out. I will say this. They gave up, if you look at like Ingram from Duke last year when he went out, he was going to get $10 million over 5 years for his shoe deal with Adidas. Ben Simmons got a Nike deal with, I think it was up front about $7.5 million. So Lonzo did not take this. I mean, that was, that's called believing in yourself, investing in yourself. So I do have to.
I mean, I respect it. Look, and you just brought up an interesting name there. I just want to touch on it with you. I don't think I've talked with you about it, and that's the Ben Simmons effect. Do you realize he's going to be a 7-foot-tall point guard? He grew 2 inches.
I've heard that. Yeah.
So him and Joel, if Joel Embiid stays healthy, the Sixers, there might be a problem in the East. This so-called weak Eastern Conference.
Yeah, having Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons stay healthy, you better say your prayers.
That would be. It's a 7-foot point guard.
Yeah, it's a long NBA season.
Yep.
What's your news about? I think he's from North Carolina.
He's actually from Tampa, Florida. It was a big big press release last night, and that is Kevin Knox. He is the 9th overall recruit in the ESPN Top 100. He's 6'9", 206 out of Tampa, Florida. He's a 5-star recruit committed to Calipari and the one and dones. He had Duke and the Blue Bloods, all the Blue Bloods were on his list. I
know. Didn't he announce that he was going to the Blue Bloods and nobody knew where he's going? It's like,
exactly, yeah. And I'm a Carolina fan. We just won the national championship. If there was ever a time to get a one and done for old Roy, it was right now. But it's not. Instead, we're staying with the 26th strength player in the top 100, and we'll be extremely average next year.
Yeah. Well, I've watched. We'll see how he does at Kentucky. Sure, he'll have a lot of help.
Yeah. I mean, that's their top recruit right now, but, they're still waiting on center Mohamed Bamba from Harlem. And
I'm not sold on the point guard they got. His name is escaping me, but I just watched him in the Balls Life tournament.
Claude Green, I believe.
Yeah, he's there's a lot better point guards in this class to me. Trae Young being one of them that went to Oklahoma. One that's one of my freshmen to look at for next year or look out for. He actually committed to Alabama, which is not known to be a basketball school, but Colin Sexton. I've been kind of following this guy, and he actually got into it with Jalen Hands they had a ball his life scrimmage, and then he tore it up and got MVP in the game. But I mean, this guy's 6'2". He can shoot. He can play he can defend better than any of the point guards out there, and he can jump out of the gym.
And Alabama's got Avery Johnson now too. So I mean, there's no better. I mean, if I wanted to go to the NBA, why not learn from a point guard who played in the NBA? So I mean, seems like it would be a good fit in my opinion.
Right. So I'm pretty he gave Trevin Duvall from IMG Academy, another top guard. He gave him like 40 points.
And I mean, looking at this list, Alabama also got another he's top 21. He's the 21st recruit in the shooting guard John Petty. So that's going to be a dangerous backcourt, at least freshman wise, this next year.
Yeah. Look out, a school that's not known for basketball, look out for them. I think it's going to be fun to watch. And that's kind of a name that has been, a little under the radar, but Colin Sexton, the guy is a phenomenal athlete. Now, I've been impressed with his jump shot. I just didn't know if he had that jump shot. But, after watching him last week in several, highlight videos and in some full games, he's done he's really impressive.
Yep. I mean, I agree. I saw the same video you're referencing. It was pretty interesting to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, he gets into it, and that's another thing. Jalen Hands. The more I've watched him, he's got to add a little more consistent jump shot, step back into his game. He can still jump out of the gym. I thought he could. He dunked over that Oprah's side or whatever it is, the YouTube vlogger. But he jumped over him in the dunk competition. Yeah, and that was pretty impressive. But I've seen some dunks that Colin Sexton has actually completed, and he wasn't even in the dunk competition. I was kind of surprised for that because that guy can really jump out of the gym. Another name, since we got just a little bit of time, the Isaiah Washington from Harlem, nicknamed Jelly Fam. This guy
he's been surfacing on social media recently.
Right. Yeah. If just type in Jelly Fam in Google, he'll pop up. But this guy, he reminds me of his style of play is Rafer Alston. He couldn't dunk. He could not dunk when he was younger. So he'll go up and he'll finger roll, and his finger roll is just like phenomenal in itself. Like every once in a while you'll see a basketball player go up and have a nice layup, nice finger roll. And you're like, man, that was nice. He does it every time. Yeah. It's really cool. I'm anxious to see how he does in Minnesota, if he's going to be able to, bring that street flair back into organized, basketball and actually lead Minnesota. So we'll see.
And briefly, just random while we're talking, while we got some time real quick before we close, this whole the Kyrie's the closure of the Cavs take that we be getting, what I'm saying? Everybody says, oh, they got Kyrie and for the last 30 seconds or whatever the case is. LeBron, at least this postseason, 7 of the 8 games is leading them in points and has the most fourth quarter points in those 7 of 8 games. So just stay away from those Kyrie as the closer takes. And LeBron makes the right play is really what it is. LeBron's a clutch player.
We'll see what happens in the
let's bring out the brooms for LeBron, dude. Bring him in. We're sweeping.
You got a dustpan?
Yeah.
You got hopefully you can sweep up little curries in that dustpan.
For those who are listening on SoundCloud, I legit whipped out a broom for us.
It's green dustpan.
Yeah.
Matches that was provided by Upper Echelon.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, man. Well, we want to thank you guys for joining in. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our SoundCloud. Comment if you ask questions or if you want us to talk about different topics. We will definitely take those into consideration and probably incorporate those into our show. Follow us at Just Critton on Twitter. And tune back next week for episode 4. It's been great to have you guys again. We're brought to you by UpperEchelonGaming.com, UE GameWire. They're going to be at E3. Really good group of guys. There's like 15 of them, and they all contribute. They're all really good. So definitely check them out, especially during E3 time. Mm-hmm. You got any words? Rob?
My name's not Rob. I got no words. Just tune in next week. Any feedback you guys have in the comments, please let us know what we can do to make this better, more interactive. Anything you guys got. We're new to this. We're just trying to be consistent and keep it going. So Thanks you guys for tuning in. Really is all I got to say. I'm not Rob. I'm Chris. It's Justin.
Hey, peace out.